Hi, I'm Ryan from the Fairly Awesome Podcast, joined by Staughton here, and we're going to be talking about Mass Effect 4. Now, we're going to take a little bit of a different twist on this. We're not going to take the what should they do, or I'm sorry, what are they going to do? We're going to take the approach of what should they do to save this in the eyes of the fans.
If it needs saved.
Right. So why don't you get into a little bit of that?
So, when I first came to the Mass Effect universe, introduced by you, it was post virtually all Mass Effect 3 DLC. They'd already fixed the ending, if you want to call it that. So, my experience with Mass Effect 3 was a lot different than the average, I would say, the fan of Mass Effect through the entire series. When I got to the end, I felt happy. I was satisfied with it. Then again, I didn't also play through every single color to see exactly what it was. I took your word for it when you told me it was the same. So, basically, knowing that there's that fan rage out there, I would like to see in Mass Effect 4, since we know it's not Shepard coming back, I'd like to see them find a way to clear up some of the drama, I guess you could say, left over. So I would be looking for a series, maybe another trilogy, that would start somewhere in the Mass Effect 3 timeline, either right before the end or immediately after the end, enough that maybe they can find a way to reconcile in the fans' eyes the loopholes, if you want to call them that were really left pretty wide open.
Sure. Well, I'm going to take a pretty radical approach, and I'm going to say that it's a mistake not to have Shepard in there. I'm not saying there shouldn't be a phase-out plan, but let's say that, let's say indoctrination theory already, and again, this isn't what they are going to do, it's what they should do, and I'm going to say that they should go back on their word of indoctrination theory. They told us that indoctrination theory isn't true, despite how elaborate and sort of ingenious it is. And I think that they should start off Mass Effect 4 as Shepard was indoctrinated by the Reapers. So the Reapers are still the bad guys, because that's going to be the question, right? If it's not the Reapers, who's going to be the bad guy in Mass Effect 4 for it to really be believable? I mean, you already took over the species that's been cycling life. So if they indoctrinated Shepard, and Shepard is now the bad guy, let's flash forward. I mean, he's partially cybernetic now, so theoretically he could just go on living forever, you know, depending on how complete his transformation was, but they brought him back from the dead, so I'm going to guess this guy could live forever and would be a huge asset to the Reapers. So if he's the bad guy, let's flash forward like 30 years and humanity and all the major council species have been enslaved. He's now the guy you have to take down, and it's clear that he's the guy you got to take down. So you're, you know, it's 30-some years old. All you've ever known is the Citadel space in control by the Reapers, with Shepard sort of making sure that life is still doing what the Leviathans / the Reapers want to have happen. You know, so if you start taking that down, I suppose there could be a twist on this, that you could be sort of the love child of Shepard and whoever his romance was, although that kind of gets a little sticky and a little bit cliche if we start getting into sort of the Star Wars moment where you figure out that your dad is the bad guy, and then there's that sort of...
As much as I love Locutus of Borg, which is basically what we're talking about here when it gets down to it, is, you know, the good guy becomes the bad guy, or the emissary of the bad guys. It would be kind of ingenious. It would fit with what we know, which is that Shepard, he's not the main character, but we know that he's going to be somewhere appearing as part of the game. I mean, they've been pretty clear about that we can probably expect at least a reference to him, which I think you have to.
Right. Save humanity. I mean, how are you gonna get through any chapter of this without referencing him unless it's not even in the same timeline?
And I don't know why I keep calling him a him, since Shepard was a woman in my trilogy, but
okay, right.
That's past the point. That you know, but this is the conversation that we're having about reconciling the ending and what do you do with Shepard, and you've made so many kind of grandiose decisions that affect the universe. Like if you were going to have a love child, can you imagine the programming that would go into making your character that love child of that relationship that you had? I mean, unless you man-hoarded up and slept with everybody, in which case it's fair game.
You know who your father is. You have no idea who your mom is.
Your mom is. Could be anybody, or maybe it's Caden. I'm just saying. So maybe a prequel might actually be the way to go.
But then, okay, so then if you go prequel and you have to, assume that then you're still talking about this cycle, where it's the Citadel species that we know of. Mm-hmm. The only bad guys then for humans are the Turians, right? Like if you go back, the Turians were the only ones that the humans got into a fight with before they got accepted into the Council. So that's really the only thing you could do is sort of the first contact war, and then the game's kind of over, So yeah. I think they do have to go forward with this unless they're going to go to a completely different cycle, which I don't think makes sense.
I don't think that makes sense either, because I think that a lot of any game, I think that you really have to have the option to play a character that feels human, because that has the best way of making you feel like part of the game rather than just playing as an alien.
Sure.
So the Mass Effect universe has been so populated with history that it does seem like the only option would be to go forward, since we kind of know the backstory of so much that's, especially if you, played all the DLC and such. But I think that, so if we have to go forward and we know Shepard's not going to be your main character, then maybe the Leviathans are the bad guys. That would be the way I think I would like to go. You have a species that is Reaper-esque, literally, but you feel like they are on a technological scale that they're a threat.
Sure, because by your spoiler standards, it's been long enough now that people should have played
If you haven't played Mass Effect and you're watching this, you're doing something wrong. Pause it, go play Mass Effect.
Well, even the Leviathan DLC.
Yeah.
I'm going to wager one of the best DLC I've ever played for a game.
Yeah, because you love lore, and that was so lore-heavy.
Right, because it basically gave an origin of the Reapers. Why were they originally created? Mm-hmm. Well, the Leviathans were mind control creatures, and, they created the Reapers to do what they were too lazy to do,
That may have actually been one of the reasons that I accepted the ending so much, is because I knew the in-depth explanation for the Reaper's existence before I got to the Godchild telling me why the Reapers were in existence. So what the Godchild was yapping on about...
It made sense because you knew that Leviathans could talk to you across the galaxy via mind control, so the Godchild made sense more than just...
Which is
what the hell is this?
Which is why I shot him and then promptly failed my first attempt to finish
harvest
the game.
Continues.
Yeah, that was painful.
Right. Okay, the other thing I think they could do here, and I don't know that it really so much saves it in terms of the fans, but they could go somewhere in the Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3 timeline, right in there, and make it somebody totally else, right? Like in Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, they did the Spec Ops, right? And they could do something similar, sort of ODST-esque, where you're helping defend little things, and the bad guys are still the Reapers. But, you could hear little tidbits about Shepard, and maybe you'd do a mission with him or her.
My only concern with that would be, because I think it would be like a cool side game.
Yeah.
But if they were trying to turn it into the major next game part of the franchise, it would be a little bit like playing or watching a movie about Wedge Antilles that took place during the Star Wars trilogy. Like just him running around scared from the Empire with the rebels. There's no really big picture story there because the events have already been written.
Sure.
So as cool as that is, I think that would be problematic for them to set it too far in the same time frame. You've either got to go way back and rewrite some history a little bit, or you got to go far enough forward that you're writing your own history.
Sure.
And then we're talking about how do you get through that.
Right. All right, guys. Well, we'd love to hear what you guys have to think as what should they do for Mass Effect 4. We already know there's going to be a lot of detail out there, and maybe by the time you see this, there's even more than what's out now. But we're really talking about what should they do for Mass Effect 4 to make it better for the fans. I'm Ryan McDowell. This is Staughton Wade. You can follow us on Twitter at FAPcast, and you can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/fairlyawesomepodcast. Thanks for watching, guys.
Fucking jukebox hero. Got stars in his eyes? Got stars in his eyes. It's probably really loud, isn't it?
It shouldn't be too bad. I think I have the gain down.
Your penis is too close to my pop.
Oh my God! Why is it fuller?
We probably will need
the
timer on this one.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll let you
I'm gonna need the timer.